When I think about the year 2025, I think of slow progression. I think of writing into the night and editing until morning. I think of waiting for the right time and then deciding now is that time. I think of the words debut author. I think of the title of my first book and the title of my second, my third, my fourth. When I think of 2025, I picture shedding my own misbeliefs as the main character of my own story, because we are all the main characters of our own stories. And I look to the future with hope in my heart and a relentlessness in my mind and in my feet to just keep going. Keep moving forward, no matter the illusions of stagnation. If this is the first video you're seeing of me, hello, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. Subscribe. If you've been a subscriber for a while, hello dear viewers, and welcome back to the Neverland Book Club. Today we're discussing patterns that turn to habits, that turn to progress, that turn to results. While ruminating on my relationship with writing this past year, I've come to a few realizations. One, sometimes the things we want most in life are surrounded by our own demons, and it's our choice to either fight them off or turn our backs and flee to where we're most comfortable. Two, I did it once, I can do it again, and again, and again. Even if it feels far more difficult sometimes, even if the hill I'm climbing is at a steeper angle and the terrain is rougher and it's raining and there's wind and etc., etc., etc. The fact still stands. I know the way. I can get there. And three, success can be measured in numbers, yes, but it doesn't have to be. Being called to something and accepting that call is a step most don't even dare to take. By clicking this video, you may have taken that first step yourself. I want to start off the new year discussing writing goals and routine to set a precedent for not only myself, but for you as well. I want to help you watching this right now. There are stories in all of us, and it took me my entire life to realize that the steps to telling a good story are not as inaccessible as they felt in my mind. With one word at a time, it can be done, and it starts with a goal. January is always a month oriented around goals, aspirations, big promises to ourselves. The truth is, most fall off whatever train they board just a few months in. But you watching this, you won't. But before we talk about 5 a.m. morning routines and planners the size of your bedroom wall, we need to take a pause and think about intention. Because writing without intention can sometimes feel like a circular track, eventually getting just as disorienting as standing still. Now, that's not to say stream of consciousness as writing doesn't have its place in your writing routine. Brain dumping and aimless writing has helped me find my way back to my stories countless times. But that's the thing. Intentionally losing yourself in thought is part of the process. So before we build our 2026 writing routine, I want to ask you a question. And I want you to genuinely consider it. It's just you and me here, and I can't even hear you, so there's no point in lying. Why do you want to write? Why this and not something else? Why words on paper and not notes played through an instrument or paint on a canvas? It's all the same and entirely different all at once. So why this and why you? See, I don't think this can simply be taught. Not entirely. I think this part has to come from within. Asking a painter to write a story about their muse might come out the same as asking a writer to paint their main character. Sure, they can give it their best shot, but it's not what they're meant to do. Artists are just as unique as we are human, and that is no two exactly alike. No one is going to write your story quite the way you would. And that's why you're the one that needs to write it. So, once you answer that question honestly and are ready to move on, you'll realize that that reason is worth far more than whatever routine you choose to follow. Where motivation may fade, and it will sometimes, you must look back to this why. All the best writers, whether it's knowing or unknowing, weave their whys into every story they tell. And as readers, we can feel it. When most people think of writing a book, they think of the milestones, a finished first draft, a publishing deal, the perceived impossibilities of this specific endeavor. And yes, these are good goals to have, but there may linger poison in imprecision. Vagueness is where goals and routines lose their way. So I want you to focus on this question first. How do I plan on showing up for my writing this year? Is your focus on writing consistently, rebuilding trust within yourself to pick up a pen or open a laptop? Do you want to finish something you started, even if it's far from perfect? Or do you simply want to feel less heavy and make sense of the chaos in your mind by putting words to paper? A sustainable goal is one that still feels meaningful. So if your year completely derails, if work gets busy, if energy dips, if you miss weeks at a time, what version of success would still make you proud of yourself? That's your goal. Once you have that, we need to talk about the part most writing advice skips entirely, your real life. We'd all like to have this be our 9-to-5. That's the dream. Making a living, finding that financial freedom in the comfiness of our own little writing nook. But for most, that's just not the reality. So in order to make it work for ourselves, we need to make it work within our own realities, not the aesthetic, quiet, candlelight daydreams where we wake up before sunrise and write uninterrupted for hours, just every morning, and our coffee never gets cold. Though, yes, mug warmers do exist, but never mind. What does your average week look like? Your average day? Which part of your day does creative energy naturally rise? And where does it tend to crash? When do you feel most like yourself? And when do you feel like you just need to turn your brain completely off? Because a writing routine that ignores your reality will always feel like a failure, no matter how well-intentioned it may be. Life is unpredictable. Your routine must be flexible enough to bend without breaking. This is where most people abandon writing entirely. Not because they lack discipline, but because they try to force themselves into routines that don't respect their circumstances. So instead of asking yourself, when should I write? Ask, when could writing realistically fit into my life as it is now? Maybe that's 20 minutes before bed. Maybe it's one long sprint on a Saturday morning. Maybe it's scattered notes throughout the week that add up over time. There is no morally superior writing schedule. Despite what we may see online and on TikTok, despite the overly specific routines of Murakami and King and Tart and Gaiman, despite some studies that say creativity spikes within the first hours of waking, and others who find they're most creative when the world is asleep, despite everything you've ever heard, even despite this video, there is only the one writing routine you will return to every day consistently. I want you to imagine the smallest version of success, the version that feels almost laughably easy. 5 minutes, one paragraph, a single sentence. This is your minimum viable writing session, the smallest unit of effort that still counts. Why does this matter? Because consistency is not built on motivation, it's built on accessibility. When the barrier to entry is low, you're far more likely to start, which, as we all know, is the hardest part. It's not about how much can I do today, but what's the least I can do and still stay connected to this project. Some days you'll exceed that minimum. You'll surprise yourself. Heck, one day I wrote 5,000 words and felt sick by the end of the day. But those days should be a gift, not an expectation. Anchor your writing to something that already exists in your life. Habits stick best when they're attached to other habits. Morning coffee, afternoon walks, evening skincare, your commute. Whatever it is, writing doesn't need a grand entrance. It just needs a door slightly ajar. And here's the most important part. Decide in advance what counts. Does brainstorming count? Does rereading yesterday's word count? Does outlining count? Does thinking count? Because when it comes down to it, you need all of these collectively to achieve this goal we're all here striving for. If we don't brainstorm, if we don't outline and think about the course our characters are taking, our first draft will remain in oblivion. So if I'm using myself as an example, music is where I found each and every one of my stories' origins. One song, one phrase, one melody can give rise to an entire 8-book series, if you're crazy enough. And those long commutes to work, I'd use that song or that playlist and repeat it over and over until I saw the story first in scenes, and then eventually as a whole. If you don't define these things ahead of time, you'll move the goalposts every time you sit down to write. Your routine should make it easier to show up not harder to feel successful. Now let's talk about flexibility, because this year will not be a perfect year. There will be weeks where nothing goes according to plan. Who knows what the next Mercury retrograde has in store for us all? The difference between writers who continue and writers who quit is not always discipline. It's adaptability. You also need like a fallback routine for your routine. A version designed specifically for hard weeks, low energy weeks, busy weeks, weeks where you're in your luteal phase. The weeks where the best you can do is open the document and just stare at it, because that still counts. A routine that only works when life is calm and ready for you is not a routine. It's a fantasy. So let's shift for a moment into mindset. There's no room for guilt this year. Okay? You hear me? Because even the most perfectly designed routine will collapse if it's built on guilt. And where can that guilt stem from? Comparison. That's right. You know all those sayings that go, comparison is the thief of success or happiness or something like that? Well, they're right. Whatever the saying is, it's accurate. We will not be comparing ourselves to other writers this year. We will not be creating a routine based off what works for someone else and their life, because guess what? You're not living their life. You're living yours. And we won't be basing our worth on progress alone. Writing is not a performance. It is a practice. Do not owe anyone proof of productivity. You do not need to earn the right to call yourself a writer by suffering enough, whatever that may be. Comparison will tell you you're behind. Social media will tell you you're late. Your inner critic, that little mean fucker in your mind, will tell you you should be further along by now. And none of it is true. Name that voice, your least favorite name in the big book of baby names, and tell him to go kick rocks. There is no timeline you're failing to meet. There is only the relationship you're building with your work, with your project, with your characters, and where they're leading you. So here's what I want you to let go of this year. The idea that consistency means never missing a day. Consistency is returning again and again, even after you may stop. Because believe me, dear viewers, burnout is so real. Even when we're bombarding ourselves with the things we love most. And it comes for us all if we don't manage ourselves properly. Okay, finally, I want to touch on commitment. When we think of the word, we think of the relationships that stand the test of time. And what do those relationships need in order to strive? A little something called unconditional love. And that's what you need to develop for yourself as a writer. Honest commitment to yourself and this goal you've set out to accomplish. You're going to check in on yourself like you would a loved one, however many times you may need. That may be multiple times a day, or it may be just once a week. I don't know. I don't know you like that. But I want you to ask yourself what's working and what isn't. Adjust without judgment. Let the routine evolve as you do, because this is not something you'll have down completely by the end of this video or even by the end of today. Routines are built on trial and error. If you're looking for something to follow and not something to build, I'm sorry, you've stumbled down the wrong rabbit hole today. But what we can do for each other is help one another evolve as a writing community. Share what's worked for you in the past, what you felt needed to be forced and therefore let go of. Share your story so it may help someone else write theirs. Write down what you're working toward, not for accountability through pressure, but for accountability through community. Writing is so solitary, but it doesn't have to be so lonely. I hope that you watching this video now feel more hopeful after having clicked on it. I hope writing feels a little less intimidating and a little more possible. I hope you realize you don't need to become a different person to be a writer. You just need a routine that respects who you already are, one that will show up for you just as much as you show up for your story. This year doesn't have to be the year you change everything. It just needs to be the year you stay lost and keep writing, one word at a time. So before you click away, here's what we're holding each other accountable for this year. 1. The why. Each story has an answer it's striving towards, and you, as the writer, are the only person equipped to answer that question. Your most honest answer will still matter even when motivation disappears. 2. Define success that may survive real life, a goal that still feels meaningful even when the year derails, because it will. 3. Building your routine around the life you actually live, not the Instagram version, not someone else's schedule. Yours, with your energy levels, your responsibilities, and your limits. 4. lowering the barrier of entry, creating a minimum viable writing session that keeps you connected to your work, even on hard days, especially on hard days. 5, deciding what counts ahead of time, so you're not moving the goalposts every time you sit down. Brainstorming, thinking, reading, showing up, it all counts, I promise. 6, flexibility. This is a softer version of your routine that still works towards your goal without feeling like you've dropped the ball. Life moves whether you're on your feet or not. Give yourself grace. And on that note, 7, letting go of guilt and comparison. No measuring your progress against someone else's timeline. No earning your worth through suffering. That's just stupid. Don't be stupid. Sorry. 8. That was 10. 8. Redefining consistency as returning. Again and again, even after a rest day, even through the myth of writer's block, and especially after doubt. 9, treating yourself like someone you love. Check in, adjust without judgment, and allow your routine to evolve as you do. We're not robots. Remember that. And finally, 10, staying connected together, using this space as it was intended for community, sharing what works, admitting what doesn't, writing alongside one another. If you do even half of these things this year, you're not behind. You're building something. And if you need a place to return to remember why you started, or to say, hey, I'm still here, you know where to find me. I can't help but get a little sappy sometimes with you guys. Anyway, that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being here. Happy New Year. If you're not subscribed already to this channel, what are you doing? I have so many great plans for this year, and I can't wait to see our little community of writers and readers just flourish. Today's shout out goes to my good friend Evanito. Hell yeah, I'm so back. Thanks for still being here after all these years. If you're into anime, you should definitely check out his channel. And if you've made it this far in the video and you're wondering why the hell you should listen to this curly-haired clown woman, I did write a book. It's called Dancing with Strangers. It's a contemporary romance with some pretty good spice and some even better reviews on Goodreads, so you should check it out. Links down below. All right, I'm off to go make a Pinterest board of my goals for the year, because as much as that's not what will get me there, it's still fun, and I consider it productive procrastination. Stay lost, keep writing and reading. Goodbye.